Greetings, everyone. P. Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Ranking the Albums, and he's back in the co-captain's chair, Mr. George Lamie. What's going on, my friend? We both have our iced tea. George Lamie and his iced tea, Pete Pardo and his iced tea. That doesn't rhyme as well. Yeah.
Vanilla almond today.
Mm. I am having what am I having? Oh, Jerry cherry. I'm finishing up my batch of Jerry Cherry. Also vanilla, it's like a vanilla cherry. So vanilla almond. I have that in my cupboard too. Republic of Tea. If you haven't tried Republic of Tea, folks, here's our little commercial on the show. It is the greatest purveyor of fine teas. You'll get come in nice little canisters, all sorts of flavors for green tea, black tea, red tea, white tea, all sorts of stuff, all sorts of combinations. I've turned George onto Republic of Tea. I've been drinking these for years. And cheers, everybody, kind of like we do on the UK Connection show. Cherry, Jerry, cherry vanilla black tea, and that one is vanilla almond. That's also a black tea one too, right? I think if I
I
remember.
believe so.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, I have a coconut one ready to go for my next batch because I think I have one more glass of this left, and that'll be that. So today, as I've been harping on all week long, one of the toughest album rankings I've had to do in a while is this Australian band called Caligula's Horse, prog metal, prog rock band. They've been around for a while. They've got 6 studio albums. They're currently on Inside Out Music, one of the staples of the label. And I will say I'm fairly new to the band. Before George and I started seriously talking about Caligula's Horse sometime last year. I had their most recent 2024 release, and I had one other, and that was really my exposure to the band. So I have gone out and gotten the ones, and George was nice enough to hook me up with one. Another one is like way out of print and really expensive, so I only have 5 of the 6, but you can listen to them easily online. And we've been joking amongst each other all week how impossible this ranking is because this is one of those bands from the first album to the most recent one that each one is very similar to the one that came before it. They're of such high quality. Every album has similar characteristics, amazing guitar work, great riffs, loads of atmosphere, amazing vocals, complex songs, genty songs, more kind of dreamy songs. It's proggy, it's metal, it's like everything in between. And ranking these is like near impossible, especially for me, who's kind of coming at this catalog more from a newbie perspective. George has had, been into this band for a longer time than me. And all week long, I've just been moving my ranking around. And finally, I said to George the other day, I'm like, that's it. I'm not moving anything anymore. And I'm going with what I have. And I think my basic statement here is that regardless of how I rank them or how George ranks them, go out and get them all. And there's no, I should get this one first or I should get that one first. I think you can get any of these first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, and it won't really matter because they're all really, really good. George, you want to add anything before we start going doing this? Because we have lots to talk about and lots of good music to figure out here.
Uh, I'll back you up that this is really, really splitting hairs. And I'll just say my background with them is 2011. I was on a website looking at year-end lists, and I saw my buddy and MJ Brady, he used to write for a site called Prognosis. He had Caligula's Horse and Druckfarben 2 and 3. I knew the rest of his top 10, but I didn't know these bands. And so I get a hold of him. I'm like, really? These two bands I never heard of are 2 and 3 for the whole year? And 2011 is a great year for prog metal. So I was like, he, I'm like, skeptical. And he's like, no, no, no. He's like, go check them out, and both really turned out, especially Caligula's Horse, though. I mean, they're just totally appealing right down my alley.
Yeah. Yeah. And they don't really sound like anybody else.
No, they have identity, that's for sure.
Yeah, there are little elements here and there that may bring to mind other bands, but as a whole, I think they have a very unique style. Let's talk about the band first before we get into the rankings. So on vocals, we got Jim Gray, very unique singer. He's definitely adds to
So
the
good.
uniqueness. Yeah, he's yeah, really good singer. And then on guitar and kind of like the main songwriter, arranger, producer guy is Sam Vallon, who is the real deal. He is
Yeah.
He's a guitar hero, folks, that nobody talks about. Uh, on the on drums, well, here's the current version of the band: Josh Griffin on drums and Dale Prince. I don't know how he says his name on
I don't know.
bass. Yeah. Previously, Jeff Irish on drums, Zach Greensill on guitar, Adrian Goloby on guitar. They had two guitar players for quite a while up until recently, and Dave Cooper on bass and backing vocals. So that's the band right there. And I guess we should get into the rankings. So six albums. Why don't we, you want we do two at a time? So we'll do six and
Yeah,
five, four and three, two and one. Okay. So we'll rank them as we like them. Like we said, very hard. I have a feeling our rankings will be quite different. But again, there's really no bad place to start with this ranking. So we're going to do the best we can. So go ahead, George, kick it off.
my number six is The Tide, The Thief, and River's End from 2013. This is album number two. Um, if there's anyone in the catalog that's a step off for me, it's this one, and it really is just a minor step. A Gift to Afterthought, Water's Edge, great starters. Then you got Atlas. That was the first single. To me, maybe the best song. If not that, Dark Hair Down, which I believe was also a single. Um, it's a good album overall, but there are a couple songs here that I do skip. I skip Into the White and I skip Thief. Um, Not bad songs, but for me, it doesn't carry the momentum of the rest of the record. And also, I would say the good songs on here are maybe not quite at the quality that you're going to see going forward. Five is going to be probably from the fans of this band, they're going to be uproarious not liking this, but In Contact, this is probably the most well-regarded album in the catalog. If not this, it's Bloom. But this one, I think the reason for me and the disconnect with the people is the epic. If you love the epic, some people think it's one of the best epics of all time, then I think you automatically put the album up because that's the kind of thing that breaks the tie, you know? I like the epic, it's a good song, but I don't see it in that regard like, wow, this is one of the all-time great epics. That's a 15-minute song, Graves, that closes the album. Great start. Dream the Dead and Will's Song. Will's Song was a single. Both of those fantastic. And you're thinking, oh, this is going to be one of the great albums. It mostly is, but there is stuff on here. The shorter pieces I have problem with. Love Conquers All, Capulet. The elephant in the room, though, is Inertia and the Weapon of the Wall, which is like a 3 minute, uh, I don't know what you call it, like almost like a reading, just vocals. He's got effects on his voice. Um, it feeds into the concept. All their albums have a vague concept. They're not hard concepts, but there's a connective tissue to it all. That song I always skip, and the people don't like it either. I was reading some reviews, and yeah, they're like, "What is going on with this track?" But hey, they're trying stuff. It's progressive. You can't sit back and just regurgitate the same kind of song over and over. But yeah, so for the fact that it has some songs I find problematic and the fact that I don't love the epic like everyone else does, that's all that pushed it to five because the other four are like so close.
More on that in just a little bit. I totally hear you on that. That's the album that I was hinting at before. My number six is going to be also The Tide, The Thief, and The River's End is the only one that I don't have. So that's there. It's the second album from 2013. Um, I mean, it's got some really great songs on it. Yeah, there it is. That's probably the worst cover though. It's like it's kind of bland or whatever.
I should say this came out on an Aussie label
Yes.
and it never got distributed here until like a couple years later when they got picked up by Inside Out and they did a brief reissue. I mean, it was out and it was gone.
Yeah.
So now this is like a collector's piece that people are paying like 50,
Impossible
60.
to get. Yeah, I think I saw a couple copies out there for a ridiculous amount of money. I'm like, all right, I don't need it that bad, you know. It's like I have
No.
all the others. So, A Gift to Afterthought is really good. I like how this band like goes back and forth, and almost in every song they go back and forth with these like heavy kind of like gent type arrangements with the big staccato riffing and whatnot, and then you get all this like atmosphere and like these dreamy sequences. They do it really, really well. Guitar work, killer on the whole album. Uh, Water's Edge is kind of different. That's it's kind of like starts off like a dreamy, almost pop song, and then it kicks into high gear later on. I really like that. Atlas is terrific, really, really good. Into the White, yeah, it's okay. Old Cracks and New Earth, that's a really great instrumental. I mean, this band, if they just did instrumentals, would be fantastic, but then you'd miss out on his vocals. So, you don't want to do that. Dark Hair Down, complete crusher. The little acoustic and vocal piece, Steve, that's okay for what it is. I love All Is Quiet by the Wall. A lot of changes going on in that song. It's light, it's atmospheric, it's melodic. Then you get the big killer riffs, and then the solo spots. Just got everything they do so well. I think it's a really strong album, right? But I think there are better. My number five is going to be the debut, which I like a lot. To me, I don't say the whole catalog reminds me of Haken, but there are spots here and there where they combine the subtlety and the complexity of progressive rock with more of the kind of like the power and thunder of progressive metal. I think that's really the only ways that I can compare the two bands because they do the light and the shade very, very well. Uh, I think The City Has No Empathy is a great opener. Jim is singing up a storm on that one. Great lead work and great riffing. I think this original drummer, Jeff Irish, is really good. He does a really good job on this album. It's a shame he didn't stay with the band. Uh, Silence is brooding. Singularity is the instrumental. It's just some blazing lead guitar work from Valen. Really, really good. Alone in the World, the big 11-minute epic, is terrific. Again, the lead guitar work is just so good. You got Ephemera, the shorter piece. It's got lush acoustic guitar, then it's got a nice guitar solo. I like that. Equally Flawed. Equally Flawed to me sounds like what you would expect from an early 90s prog metal band on Magna Carta records. I just get this vibe. It just sounds like it came from that era. Really good song. Um, if you get the CD reissue, you get the Colossus EP stuff. I think Colossus is a great track, and then you got
Yeah.
Finishing Rights, which is totally different. I think it's a really good debut. Really good debut. I like it a lot. I think they would go on and do better things, but I think this is really, really good. So, folks who wanted to start with right at the very beginning, I wouldn't argue that at all. So, yeah, it's my number five.
All right. My number four, Charcoal Grace. Um, the 3-4 battle was the worst. I went back and forth so many times. Fantastic opener, The World Breathes with Me. I mean, that and the two-track Golem, which yeah, that was a single Golem. That's a heavy neck snapper type riff. This Sam Vallon writes so many neck snapper riffs, man.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Every like half the songs in the album, you just find yourself like, oh my God, this riff is so good.
You know what I
Uh,
call them, George? I call them the rubber band riffs because it's almost like the whole it's just like it's just bouncing all over the place. I love the way they're produced too. Great stuff.
yeah, oh yeah. His rhythm tone is Crunch City, man.
Yeah.
So good. Um, then you got four songs that are linked together as the Charcoal Grace Suite. I tend to see them as separate songs. Um, then you got Sales, which is a Pink Floydy ballad. It's
Yep.
actually really good. I actually turned our friend Anthony onto that. He liked that. Storm Chaser was a single. Interesting video goes with that. Mute is probably the most talked about song with the fan base. Fan base tends to just love the epic no matter what. And here that they love this song. It's a good tune. I saw him on this tour, and that tune did bring the house down, man. It was really good. You know, for whatever reason, this album's a little more dense to me than my next pick. So that's literally all it was. Because quality wise, I think it's just as good. But I think my next one's a little bit more immediate. That's my number three, Rise Radiant. 2020, um, they right before COVID, so they didn't get to tour this. which is a real sense of frustration for them because they love this album, and so do I. This listening to it again for this exercise, I was reminded how much I love this album. It's so good. Tempest, great opener. Slow Violence, that's one of their best songs, I think. If I made a Caligula's Horse hits tape, that's got to be on it. And Salt as well. Actually, Salt is probably my favorite. Those two songs back to back. Wow. Yeah, Resonate is a softie, a good softie. Jim Gray, his mellow voice is so good. He really will grab your heart, man. He touches you. And he can belt when it's the heavy stuff. He's right there, man. He does light and dark so well.
He does. I think if he did a whole album full of ballads, I probably wouldn't mind because he's got a perfect voice for it.
Oh man, his falsetto is incredible. He and it's just his mellow, chill voice is really good. Fantastic singer. He was in my top five when we did the top five singers on Prog Seed. Um, every song on this is good. Ocean Rise, Valkyrie, Autumn, The Ascent. There's nothing to pick apart on this album. That's I mean, the fact that this is behind two others for me blows my mind because this is a definite 4.5 for me. So Rise Radiant.
Yeah, more about that in a little bit. My number four is the album that we talked about before. This is the album that everybody seems to think is their greatest achievement. In Contact, fourth album, 2017. Um, I think you hit the nail on the head. There's a couple of tracks on here that don't really do a lot for me, but the stuff that I like on here, I really like a lot. I think it's to
Yeah.
me, I thought about ranking it lower, but the thing is, there are a couple songs that I'm just like, God, that's so good. So it kind of pushed it right in the middle of the pack. I mean, Dream the Dead is awesome. Really, really great song. Will's song is really good. I mean, it's catchy. You got these little kind of gent riffs going on, a nice edgy vocal from Jim, which I really like a lot. You have the hands are the hardest, some nice textures. There's a little bit more of the kind of the dreamy passages from them on this album, I think, than some of the other albums, which I think is another reason why I don't kind of rank it as high as some other people do. I don't like Love Conquers All. I think that's kind of throwaway. Songs for No One, though, is terrific. You know, you got these earworm melodies, which I think are great, big, gorgeous soundscapes, and you got the crushing guitar. Love that. Um, Fill My Heart, it's okay. Weapons of War is total throwaway for me. I really have no use for that. The Cannon's Mouth is pretty good, got good chugga chugga riffs. I love Graves. Here we go with the dog barking. Wife is training. Of course, now she's taken one of her training dogs out back, and of course, German Shepherd is like all in. The other dogs downstairs are all in. So, yeah, I like the Big Epic. I think to me, and again, I won't talk about this much in this episode because, like we said, they don't really sound like anybody else. But I get little bits of like Pain of Salvation and Riverside and Porcupine Tree in there on some of the more melodic, atmospheric parts. The vocal harmonies are great. Good blend of heavy and atmospheric. Again, I like this album a lot, but I don't think it's like a start to finish masterpiece like everybody seems to think it is. And I'm like I said, I almost rank this lower like you did because I'm kind of confused, you know, again, but it's got some great songs on it. So, you know, sometimes a couple really great songs can move the needle a little bit. I think they have more consistent albums, but the greatness of half the album, I think, is what puts it at number four for me. And my number three is going to be their latest album, which is, of course,
Dark Cold
Oh
Race.
Grace from 2024, sixth album, still on Inside Out. Um, Back to a four piece, just with just Valent on guitar. You don't miss anything, you know?
No.
I mean, I think, you know, you can make an argument that the sound is a little beefier on some of the albums with two guitar players, but you know, if you didn't tell me, I wouldn't know the difference. I love The World Breathes With Me is just a great kind of slow builder of a song. They do that slow build thing very, very well, where they start off in one place and they kind of build to this big crescendo, get the big chugga chugga riffs, the blazing solos, big symphonic swells. I mean, you know, and then I love how they're building to this sledgehammer of finale, and then the last minute of the song drops to a pin drop, right? It just gets quiet and like Wow, how cool was that? Normally I don't like when bands do that, but they do it so well. I love the four-part big title track epic. I think it's good. I agree with you. It definitely is. It changes all throughout the four pieces, which is really cool. They're almost like separate songs, but it's really good. And they do this big furious climax, kind of like Dream Theater does so well, right? Which is really, really cool. Great guitar playing on all here. Storm Chaser is really good. Yeah, that David Gilmour type solo, man. It's so Pink Floyd. It's so cool. I love Mute. I think Mute is really good. Great vocals on here. Really, really strong album. It's my number three. Back to you.
My number two is the other album. I went and checked the Rate Your Music rankings, and two are a virtual tie, which was In Contact, and this one, Bloom, and well deserved. Again, like Ray's rating it, I can't find any faults in this album. This is what, 2015? Yeah, 2015. I went on your buddy Jack's show and did a top five of 2015, and this was in there. And yeah, gave me a look like I was speaking Swahili. He's like, "What the heck is that?" But you might like some of this if you check
What
it
is a
out.
Caligula's horse, George? I've never heard of them.
Yeah, I was like, this I had in there and a Galnerius album, and he's probably like, "Why did I invite this guy again?" I came through with I had a Symphony X in there, so I came through at the end. But yeah, this album's fantastic. Bloom, kind of a shorter piece, starts out ballady, but picks up about halfway through. It gets heavy and it's cool. Then you got to run, man. Marigold is fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, then you got Firelight, which was one of the singles. It's kind of got all this band does a little bit. They have a little alternative rock flavor in some of their stuff, and this is one of them. A little alternative rock flavor. But then Dragonfly and Rust, those two, wow. That for me, that's the meat of this album is those two tracks. Um, Dragonfly's the epic. Really cool parts in that. Just so good. Turntail is another single, and again, it's got a little bit of that alternative rock feel in it. Um, Maybe Daughter of the Mountains a little bit off the pace, but not really. It's a good tune, and it closes with Undergrowth. I mean, near perfect album. Uh, Objectively, probably the best in my opinion, but I'm gonna put it number one because this is the one. Moments from Ephemeral City, the debut, 2011. You know, this totally hit me when it came out, and I've never been able to shake it.
There's something to
Uh,
be said about when you came on board with a band, right? I mean, sometimes it's hard to get past that. Because I've done that a million times too. It's like,
yes, I'm waiting to feel like one of the new ones will strike me more, and Bloom almost did, but I don't know. It's hard to be better than this. The City Has No Empathy is one of my favorite songs that they ever did. Establishes their style right away with the heavy and, like you said, the light and dark. They do it so good. I will say, I think Sam Vallon is even better on this album than the rest of the albums. He he was a guy I hear he was on the Petrucci forum for years and doing like putting like shreddy stuff out. And I think it's still in play here. Like the solos on this are over the top, really, really good. Still tasty, not going off like Ingve style or anything, but just more intense, blazing through some of these solos. And us, I like the fact that there's two instrumentals on here. You got
wow.
Singularity. Yeah. I mean, that's always going to strike with me. And I actually did get the reissue when it came out just so I could have the Colossus EP on here too, because I had that as files. Oh my, you know, wanted it on the same disc. Those two songs, you can hear the difference in the production and maybe a little bit musically, but it still fits in too. It's like it's not a total outlier. Those are really good tunes. Colossus was a video track. Uh, you know, the whole thing between Sam and Jim, I just fall for their stuff every time. And this album giving me the history too. It's just completely endearing to me, so it had to be number one.
Cool. Yeah, I had a feeling we would be a little bit different at the top, but that's cool. Like I said, it's the strength. It just goes to show you the strength of the catalog. My number two was almost my number one, and it's the most recent one I've gotten is Rise Radiant. Great. This is great. Fifth album, 2020. First with new bassist Dale Prince or Princey, however he says his name. I mean, every song is great on here. The Tempest is such a killer opener. I love the crushing riffs. I love how they use keyboards in this band, right? They're very subtle, but you know they're there, and they add this whole kind of like all the atmosphere comes from the keyboards. And I don't even know who's playing them. They never list who's playing keyboards on these things, right?
One of them says Sam.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that
Yeah.
totally makes sense. That makes sense then. And what an outstanding vocal on this. Slow Violence. That herky jerky riff. So good. Chorus is really catchy. You got the kind of keyboards floating around in the background. So good. And I love that big breakdown in the middle. Comes out of nowhere. It's just like, whoa, that just kicked my ass. 10 Ways to Sunday. Gotta love that. Just so good. Salt, one of the longer pieces. Excellent. Resonate is probably the little throwaway on here, but whatever. But that leads into Ocean Rise, which is great. Love the big riffs and the soaring soundscapes and that great chorus. So good. I get a little bit of Tool vibes in spots on this album. Maybe not intentional, but I think it's just more kind of the way they arrange things. I love Autumn. Totally gorgeous. I mean, the Ascent is great. Again, they balance the heavy and the soft so well. Great lead guitars, great riffs, great vocals. Excellent album. Probably any other day would have been my number one. Might be my number one tomorrow. But unfortunately, there's an album called Bloom that takes the spot for me today. 2015, third album, first for Inside Out. What better album to release on your first album from a fairly big prog label than this, right? I mean, the opening title track is so good. It's vibrant. It's just full of life. The guitar tones are great. Marigold is amazing. Firelight is a killer prog metal track. I mean, it's nice and aggressive and gives you all those great guitar tones and the great vocal harmonies. Just so good. Um, Dragonfly. I don't think any other band in this scene uses textures quite like these guys do. And it's at times I'm like kind of like listening to a song like this and I'm like, is that like guitars that are layered together? Is that keyboards? I don't quite know at times, but they do it so well. And it complements all, and then all of a sudden you get these heavy riffs that come in, and none of their songs really are like dominated by constant riffarama all the way through, which I think is very interesting that they do that because that's what makes their music so unique and gives it so much variety. Um, God, what else? I mean, Rust is just those intricate guitar parts and the drumming. It's just absolutely sick. I mean, everything on here is great. Um, I'm gonna knock it just a hair because I don't like when bands end killer albums like this with something really soft and Undergrowth is really soft. I think that would have been better put somewhere else on the album and end it with something like, Turn Tailor Rust, but nobody asked me these things. But otherwise, it's an amazing, amazing album, and I love the production of it. And yeah, today that is my favorite, but I could see any of these being my favorite tomorrow. So
You're
that's
right. You're right, though. I forgot to mention this band, more than maybe any band, does not rely on tempo or like really constant riffs like other bands do. In fact, it's kind of frustrating that they don't do more of it because a song like Rust is a fast song with a jigga 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 kind of beat riff in it, and it's so effective. They do it well, but they don't do that stuff in general.
yeah,
Like
they'll have like a 5 or 6 minute song, and you'll only get like maybe a minute and a half of the killer riffing, and then they'll kind of mix it in with all this atmospheric stuff and the great vocal melodies, and it's just Yeah, it can be frustrating because you want to hear more of that. For those of us who like more aggressive music, you're like, oh, keep going with that riff. Oh, here comes the keyboards and the soundscapes again, and the big soaring vocals and stuff. But then that stuff is done so well, and when the
Yeah,
more you think about it, the more you think how genius it is that they're putting these songs together that you never know where you're going to go, where they're going to take you. Never mind where you're going to go, where they're going to take you in that 5 to 6 minutes, let alone like a 15 or 20-minute epic, right? Where you're going all over the place. So yeah, I can see some people who like more straightforward, um, you know, chugga chugga chorus, solo, chugga chugga chorus, solo, outro type of thing, because that's not this band at all.
no. I mean, you got 6 albums here, and I think there's like double bass on less than 5 songs. It's they just don't do that whole thing. It's bizarre, but
Yeah.
that's what it is. They just not their style.
No, but it's also well done and the vocals are outstanding. And like I said, if you like your prog or prog metal with not only shredding guitars, but really tastefully done lead guitar work, this guy he is the real deal. He's really, really good. He has a way of phrasing that again, he doesn't sound at all like him, but the way John Petrucci can shred your face off, but then the next moment deliver like a minute and a half solo that's so emotional and so much feel, right? That you just kind of like, oh my God, I can't believe he just did that. This guy has those kind of talents too, where he mixes it up really, really well, which
The
I think,
phrasing is like a roller coaster phrasing. It's not constant. He gives you that, then he backs off. He does this and that. It's very, very well put together solos.
yeah,
Incredible.
yeah, I would agree. And I love the way the vocals are produced because the backing vocals at times are just as amazing as the lead vocals, and yeah, the production just is outstanding on all these albums. So really,
Even the
really good
first
band.
two, though they were Aussie indies, and those sound just as good. I mean, they sound really good.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. So, another example of a great Australian band that's kind of playing in this sort of genre here. There's a few of them, and arguably these are one of the best. So, for those folks who are, because we have a lot of viewers from Australia. I see them in the comments all the time. You guys got to talk about more Australian bands. Like, well, here you go. So, for those watching who know this catalog, rank these 6 albums as you like them. But if you're watching this and you've never listened to Caligula's Horse or maybe only heard an album or two here and there, go check these out. They're all available. You can stream them and listen to them and then come back and let us know what you think. Because, again, the focus of this channel is to hopefully turn people onto music they've never listened to before. And this band was fairly new to me not all that long ago. So I'm happy that they are now a band that I have pretty much regularly into now and listening to quite a bit. And it was a pleasure to do this ranking episode. So,
Yeah, don't do that. I'm not that big into prog metal, so I don't need to check it out because they're not your father's prog metal band. They're
no,
definitely
they're not typical at all. They don't sound like Symphony X. They don't sound like Dream Theater. They don't sound like, a lot of the other bands that everybody talks about. They don't sound like Vanden Plas. They don't sound like, the more extreme side of things. They don't sound like Opeth.
no,
None of those bands. They're very, very unique. And if you like just real atmospheric melodic music, interspersed with a good amount of heaviness and really, somewhat technical arrangements at times, great lead guitar work. I think you'll find like lots to love here. And George mentioned this whole kind of like little alternative rock or alternative metal element that pops up every now and then. They sound like a very modern band. There's nothing retro about this music at all.
no.
So if you're looking to discover something that's very much sounds like it was done today or in the last decade, and very modern sounding, I think this band will be right up your alley. So, because if you watch any of the live clips on YouTube and you see like, and they're playing in clubs and small places and stuff, it's all very young people who are going to see this band. So,
Yeah, I think it's the gent riffing that pops up.
yeah,
Because they all like the gent stuff. Again, if you don't like gent, you could still like these guys because it's just a flavor. It's not all over the place,
right.
but
Yeah,
it's a
for sure.
flavor they really do well.
Yeah, yep, for sure. So cool. So that's our ranking. Tune in next week for another ranking the album show. I will be solo next week. I'm going to be ranking the solo albums of Phil Collins, much asked for. I'm going to finally get to that. That's coming up next week. But we got lots of good ranking shows coming up in the not too distant future. God, we got Coney Hatch coming up. We've got Night Flight Orchestra, Virgin Steel, Hellstar, um, Honeymoon Suites. What else? No, I'm missing a ton. I know I got one coming up with Grant. What is that episode? I can't even think of it now. I'm not really sure. I have to consult my list. Hold on. I should just stop talking shit. Come on, Pardo. Get with the schedule so we know exactly what's coming and you're not just talking out of your ass. So I should learn to do that more often. What do we have here? All right, so we got coming up. Oh, we got Zebra coming up. Lynn Versace's coming back on the channel. She and I will be ranking the albums of Zebra. George and I talked about doing Kenso, but what is on the calendar for the next couple weeks? Hold on, guys. If my spreadsheet would agree with me here. Here we go. So we got Phil Collins next. We've got Zebra on the weekend of the 12th. We've got Stephen Reed and I will be ranking the albums of Tremonti. Ah, there's what Grant and I are doing. So Grant and I at the end of April will be doing Brownsville Station. So ranking the albums of Brownsville Station. So along with everything else, Phil Collins next. So a ton of things on the agenda for ranking the album shows. I think we also were talking about doing Cab at some point too with our good buddy Eric. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. I don't want to pretend like I don't see the comments, but I've seen a couple of you say, "Well, Pete, now that you've done like so many of these ranking shows, isn't it time to go back and revisit some of the old ones that you've done who have released new albums and see if your ranking changes and stuff?" And I get how a lot of people want to see that, but I've got so many other bands that I haven't even tackled yet before I even consider to do that. Because you know what's going to happen. If I go back and re-rank the Dream Theater catalog, they're going to put out another new album in 2 years. And that throws a wrinkle into all that. So then I got to consider doing that again. So for those who want to see re-ranking of stuff and see how my opinions have changed on some of these, we'll do it at some point down the road. But I've got so many other bands that we haven't tackled yet that I need to concentrate my time on those. Because to me, doing some of these ranking shows on bands for the first time is way more exciting than going back and re-ranking the Black Sabbath catalog again. I
Not to
got
mention
to
how
be
many
honest. It's.
how many albums have any of these bands put out since you did the ranking show? Two? I mean,
Yeah,
not
I mean,
that many.
and there's going to be instances like, Judas Priest and Maiden and Saxon and Overkill and Testament and stuff like that. Opeth, maybe. Yeah, obviously they're still pumping on albums, Uriah Heep, but for like to re-rank the Black Sabbath catalog, that doesn't really make much sense to me. To
Hmm.
re-rank the Beatles catalog doesn't really make much sense to me. Yeah, I get that sometimes your favorite albums change a little bit here and there, but to re-rank a catalog that hasn't had any new albums released since the last time I re-ranked it or the last time I ranked it, I don't really have a lot of motivation to do that. But bands that have had two, three, four releases since I ranked their catalog 5 years ago, we'll get to that eventually. But like I said, there's so many bands that I haven't tackled yet that I would rather do first because that's way more exciting to me, to be honest with you. So for
I
those.
saw somebody in the comments say too that you could also add a different co-captain and get that guy's,
True,
input as
and that'll
well.
and that'll be the time to do that, right? Because then they'll
Right.
make it that much more fresh. But for now, I mean, just so everybody knows, because I actually have my spreadsheet open. Just so you know, kind of what is on the like list of to-do bands. I mean, Jerry Cantrell solo, Solitude Eternus, The Gates of Slumber, Kenso, Agent Steel, Brownsville Station, Super Sister, Moby Grape, Malice, Vicious Rumors, Jag Panzer, Honeymoon Suite, Coney Hatch, Cab, Riot. Riot's another one I'm going to do real soon. Hellstar, Virgin Steel, Night Flight Orchestra, Zebra, Gnidralog, Jafria, Ohm, Cosmos Squad, The Crusaders, Neil Sean Solo, Firewind, Voodoo Circle, Gracious, Sog, Hammerfall, Orden Ogan, Iron Savior, Brainstorm, Master Plan, Titanic, Iceberg, Agusa, Landberg, Ritual, Annihilator, Death Angel, Dark Angel, Possessed, Obituary, Deicide, Incantation, Autopsy, Beardfish, Devin Townsend. Shall I go on? I mean, I got tons of them. T-Rex, The Birds, Simon and Garfunkel, Stryker, Grand Magus, The Go-Go's, Great White, Earth, Wind and Fire, Catatonia, Black Oak, Arkansas, Haunts, Mark Farner solo, Children of Bodom, Color Haze, Dark Tranquility, The Tangent, Palace, and there's more. I could just sit here all day and just list them all. So as you can see, guys, I've got enough bands that'll get me through the next year of doing this show. So,
Yeah.
and then I've got, other folks who participate in the channel who have other ranking episodes that they're going to be contributing that aren't even on my list. Like I talked to Steven.
Yeah.
Steven's working on a couple himself that he knows I won't be interested in doing. So, yeah,
I've got a short list that I was making of ones that I'm going to do solo because you instructed me to do that. So there's plenty to go around.
yeah, yeah. So for those of you who want to see re-ranking stuff, be patient. We have a lot more catalogs that we haven't even tackled yet first before we start doing that. So we'll get to when we've exhausted everything we think we can exhaust. And I think that would be impossible, to be honest with you, because there's so many bands out there. I'm just looking here. Big Train's another one that I haven't done, right? So, but they, again, that's also for bands that are still really active. We put in the works plan to do a ranking show, and then we find out, oh, they're releasing a new album in 4 months, and we're like, oh, got to wait for that, right? Because can't do a ranking show when a new album's coming. I mean, the Tremonti one that Steven and I are doing, we talked about doing that a year ago, but then we got wind that he was putting out a new album, so we're like, all right, we got to wait. So you got to put it on the back burner. And now's the time, right? So yeah, so there's plenty of stuff to do. We'll get to all of it, and we'll do the re-ranking stuff somewhere down the road. So be patient, folks. We'll get to that. Anyway. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube all together all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as it posts. And please do hit the like button before you leave. Also, down below, we got the links to our Ko-Fi page for channel donations, our merch page, our Cameo page, and the Sea of Tranquility membership options. Thank you for those who do help out the channel. Greatly appreciated. More importantly, go and check out Caligula's Horse. That's the ranking for today. Put some stuff down in the comments. Do you love them? Do you hate them? Have you heard them? Have you not heard them? Have you investigated them? Can you rank them? All down below there. For George Lamie, I am Pete Pardo. Thanks for watching here on the channel. Coming up, more stuff happening this week. I don't really know what's going on this week. It's gonna be kind of it's the last couple of days of the month and brand new month. So of course, new morning show, 9 a.m. starting on Tuesday. Albums that are 20 years old in 2025 and albums that are 10 years old in 2025. We're going to go back. Half the month will be 2015. The other half will be 2005. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Starting on Tuesday. Till then, I am Pete Pardo for George Lamie. Have a good weekend, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.